into English, okay?
Okay, I think Rosanna is doing into Spanish.
Oh, I see, okay. Well, then,
No.
Is that all right?
Un altro discorso. Lì potete registrare solamente l'italiano, quindi vi mettete nella traduzione in italiano
appunto,
e
sì.
registrate l'italiano e punto, non toccate nient'altro.
Ok, poi io ti ripeto, capisco se parli in spagnolo o in
Sì,
francese.
certo.
Ma non importa.
Non parli.
Chi...
Mike, can you manage? Somehow it doesn't work.
And now?
Now I saw a green line around my frame, but I don't see the booth.
Cesare, hai bisogno che registri in spagnolo? Questo mi hai detto?
però significa che non ti puoi ascoltare gli originali.
I don't see the Italian in the languages, in the original audio. I see English, French, and Spanish.
And Italian.
No, Italian, I don't see it.
Hey, I've got it.
Okay, maybe that was it.
Chi pronuncia il mio nome?
Non c'è il tuo nome.
Let me put you into a Chinese booth.
Okay, good.
Chi potrebbe fare la... Non abbiamo nessuno spagnolo, porca miseria. Uff.
Allora, per gli italiani ci sarà cinese e inglese e corrisponderà all'italiano.
Va bene.
Great.
Cesare, te lo faccio, ma
No,
ne hai
ma
bisogno?
non ci sono, I'm still not there.
Perché io volevo parlare in spagnolo perché abbiamo, diciamo, per incentivare i nostri amici spagnoli.
Mike, I leave once again.
Per quello.
Te lo registro in spagnolo
Okay,
se
thanks,
vuoi, va
Francesco.
bene?
Va bene. Ok.
Allora,
grazie.
come faccio? Vado sullo spagnolo, scusate, vado sullo spagnolo e poi faccio record, ma poi dopo tu lo recuperi?
Sì, poi Mike ti autorizza, quando è terminato, clicchi e ti dice di salvarlo.
Ok, e quando parlerò in spagnolo?
Tu parla come vuoi.
Io parlo come voglio, ok, va bene.
Tu parla come vuoi,
Vado.
non c'è problema.
Comincio a registrare adesso?
Aspetta un secondo perché non abbiamo ancora cominciato. Ok. Mike?
Yes.
Are we ready?
Cesare, io devo fare registrazione quando inizia?
Sì.
I'm just waiting for Francesca to come back and I'll try to assign her.
Sì.
But I think we're ready.
I Bertelli di Salò devo la farle sperando per
Sta cercando ancora il link, credo, Francesca. Non so cosa sia successo. 20 minuti, caspita.
Okay, so Teresa. Okay, I think we should make it a start, Cesare, and then I will try and address the interpretation issues while you're going.
We have all the interpretation.
French,
ready?
Italian, Spanish into English, and English into Spanish.
Okay.
And Francesca will do Italian, English when we can assign her.
Mike, when are you? I'm ready.
Okay. I think start and I will address the interpretation.
Okay.
Just give me 5 minutes, everybody. But keep going.
Okay, but the record, you have to allow all the people. Do you receive? Okay.
Yeah, everybody can record now, I think. Thomas.
Paolo, tu stai registrando, sì?
No, ancora no.
Fai un'altra richiesta, perché... Daria, tu?
No, siamo insieme.
Ok.
Quale Daria? Che ce n'è due.
No.
Ah, Daria Cibrario, non vi conoscete. Lei è del PSI, ma non il PSI. Beh sì, PSI svizzero però.
Svizzero.
Beh, insomma,
Più o meno.
Comunque
io
lei-
sono Valtelline di Sondrio, quasi Svizzera, quindi siamo vicine
È
lì.
tutta un'altra
Ma io
roba.
sono di Torino,
PSI.
tranquilla.
È del PSI, Public Service International. Ok, bene. Possiamo?
I should be now.
Okay,
Try again.
let me try.
I re-registered from this gadget.
Okay,
Thanks.
and Italian English.
Yes, thank you.
Fingers crossed.
No,
No.
no,
Have you changed your name? No.
no.
Io se volete posso farvi la traduzione livornese. Se vi
No, the only thing I could be, I should leave the other meeting and connect from the PC, because from this tablet it doesn't work.
Okay.
Mike, I've
Yeah.
already worked things out with
Okay.
Hosanna. Okay, so
Sorry,
Hosanna and I will be
guys.
doing.
See you later.
Okay.
Excellent. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, David. Thanks,
Okay.
Francesca. Okay, look, you'll have to begin, Cesare.
Buenas tardes. Voy a hablar en español para favorecer la participación.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm going to be speaking in Spanish because it'd be better for me, because I'm sure that the interpreters will be able to help out and to correct any mistakes that we may have. So very quickly, I'm going to make a quick overview of what are the fourth session of the World Association of Inhabitants, which was held on 30th of January of this year. There has been a participation, a very special participation. We have had more than 140 participants, which is a very large number. It's a bit less than the other ones, but with a different type of quality, the methodology. There were some interventions. There was a Marxist economist, Richard Wolff, who presented some of the roots, the economic roots of the crisis that we are currently going through. And he have provided a much deeper analysis to really understand what is happening. And from a time perspective, is that this crisis is not a coronavirus, but it has just worsened what already has been there, because there has been a combination or a cross-section between the various problems that society has been facing that now has aggravated, and they've all come together at the same time. There were other participations, more particularly Raquel Rolnick, or she was the rapporteur of the UN group for housing, and now she is engaged in the zero evictions movement. And she has presented what is going on in her country. And then this has also been engaged in the fight for democracy. And the current Brazilian president has now occupied the seat with a procedure that is not so democratic. So this has already been placed on a political level. And then there has been the intervention of the various continents, which have done an overview of what is going on the various continents. As you know, throughout the last year, we have not only us as the World Association of Inhabitants, but also the other movements have been engaged to try to address the crisis, more particularly to avoid evictions and also the food problem, the health problem, problems affecting women.
in particular,
And we also had a report, more specifically, with Faiza Mayer, who's an activist and who is also engaged in the right to housing and the right to water, and more particularly in Africa. And she talked about the issue of the sluggishness or the incapacity of people to pay their rents, and also the terrible conditions of housing, which of course has been overlapping the problem of unemployment. But unemployment has been highlighted by Christina, and she is also part of a very strong organization in Argentina. And you know, Argentina is now going through a very serious crisis. Not only Argentina, but Peru and Costa Rica. So Christina has presented us the problems that Latin America is currently facing. The only country that a country that has faced this problem has been Venezuela, where they have a different policy. In the Bolivarian republics, there is a great advancing of public social housing. But in Peru and Mexico and Brazil and Argentina, where the privatization and of labor and the privatization of housing and health and other sectors of the economy has affected the situation very much. Mike is now helping us out in the technical parts and has mentioned also highlighting the problems affecting South Africa with regard to the evictions in South Africa and all Anglophone Africa, more specifically the evictions that have taken place and continue to take place in Kenya. Kenya, we're now talking about Nairobi, but we're also talking about Kisumu is a city where next year there will be a conference held called Afri-Cities, which is held every 3 years. And this is where everybody will meet to talk about through the International Alliance of Inhabitants. We'll talk to other counterparts with regard to housing problems. But then they're evicting people to prepare for this conference. I mean, this is crazy. So this is something that we also need to address. Robert Robertson, who is the coordinator in the United States, and he lives in New York, has also mentioned the problems that the United States has been facing. And he's responsible for North America per se. And he mentioned how COVID is affecting very strongly, in spite of the fact that there is a new president. So what's interesting to highlight here is that they have decided that the moratorium, or they're going to extend the moratorium on evictions. So this will be extended up until September of this year. But the main problem here is rents. We do not have an overall cancellation of rents. Somebody says there's no translation into Italian. Is this correct? Sorry, Francesca?
Io non la sento la traduzione in italiano. Non so.
Ma neanche io.
Non c'è?
No, poi si è capito abbastanza.
Capisce bene, ma
Sì, si è capito perché
Sì.
è spagnolo, più o meno si è capito, però non so perché.
Sorry, Cesare, what's the
Sì.
problem?
No, the problem is there are no interpretation from Spanish. And Francesca said, please talk in Italian.
Okay, we have Spanish into English, Spanish into Italian,
Ok,
but we do
allora
not have
parlo in
Spanish
italiano.
to French.
D'accordo.
Ah, ecco.
Seguo in italiano allora, d'accordo. quindi è più facile. Avevo capito che era
Yes, it's easier if you speak in Italian. So the situation in the United States, it's serious from a health point of view, due to the economic crisis as well,
and also
and
the labor problem,
working crisis that is following the pandemic. And they achieved a moratorium, but till now the cancellation of rents and the funds that can support the rents are there, but there is no cancellation of debts. So the head of CNL France told us that they're really fighting. In that country, there is a kind of a ceasefire that will expire on the 31st. Right now they manage, but there is this commitment to fight so that we could have 0 evictions. And the second point is that we have the consideration of introducing the right to housing, so that all constitutions might entail this right. And a very serious debate is which involved comrades from Mexico, and there is Gabriel also from France. They told us that, and I would like to highlight that the most important thing is that solidarity agenda of inhabitants was settled, and we said that we would like to have converged all the topic raised. What we could try to do all together is to have achieve more visibility and greater impact. Visibility through wording and visibility through initiatives agenda. And we will see now in Europe which are about to be these initiatives, as well as common strategies, setting up alliances, and as concerned the strategy, we will do a two-tier strategy. So first, the urgency that is due to the evictions, the issue of health, and also the perspectives and the changes that has to occur in the structural policies, and in particular the right to housing as a public service, and funding for this sector as well, housing industry as well. And then it was also decided to consolidate the management of this network that we are about to set up, we're setting up, in order to have a deadline that at a 3-month deadline. So the next assembly that we're going to have is in next April, and then autumn. Therefore, we will fix some dates so that we can prepare ourselves. Between one date and the other, this is a European meeting, there might be also national level meetings that will cover evictions or other initiatives that are to be undertaken. And therefore, I would like to highlight a very important aspect, and that is the aspect that covers not only the objectives, that is, namely the rights to housing and a structural change, but also policies that have to be alternatives to liberalism. So the right to the environment and the management of resources. As concern alliances, this is a very important aspect because nevertheless we are keeping our autonomy and independence. We do not manage to achieve such goals, so automatically we have to consider and take into account that there are other authorities, the local authorities, for example, that are combating, they're fighting, they're on the front line. And there are local authorities that sometimes are against us, but on the European level, for example, Paris, Spain, in Barcelona or Berlin, or other cities that have an open approach. It means that we can debate and dialogue with them. But there are others, and in particular, there are also the workers that have to be taken into account, and Daria will tell us. And this is another federation that it's important, so to publish, to get this one sector public, alliances are needed. Just to remind you how important are these alliances they are. And then also there is the academic world, and I would like to quote and say one thing. The crisis, and we are talking in general, but also we have to focus on practical point of view. Both in the United States and England, in the United Kingdom, they're undertaking something that might be interesting for us. They analyze the universities, they have analyzed the impact of eviction upon the death toll and contagious toll. So these contagious, so they were very, very good in asking for a postponement of the moratorium. So there is an equality, an equation between right to house and right to health. And so between the two, right to housing, right to health, the second, the latter one has a major role, play a major role. But the availability of the academic on this aspect, so for us does play an important role. So I now closing my my presentation on this aspect. If there is somebody else who would like to say something on this topic, please go ahead. And then afterwards, we will focus on our approach, the European approach. Who would like to say something? So the first part is the evaluation of our General Assembly, of Inhabitant Assembly. Laura is asking if we have a research of the death toll. Yes, we have everything. We can find them also in the Facebook page of Zero Eviction of our alliance. And then we will share them. Somebody would like to say something about the assembly? Somebody who participated to it, please go ahead.
Pierre?
Pierre, please go ahead. Nobody saying anything? Please.
De l'Assemblée du 30?
Du 30, mais de la mobilisation réalisée jusqu'à... Bon, toi, tu as aussi fait les comptes rendus, donc tu la connais très bien.
J'ai été très impressionnée par la diversité des témoignages. Parce qu'il y a quand même beaucoup de pays dans lesquels la militance est presque dangereuse, même pas presque, franchement dangereuse.
Cesare, scusa, non sento la traduzione dal francese. Va bene così? Pronto? Cesare?
Mike, adesso verifico. Mike, do we have the interpreted from French to Italian?
Sorry. We are. Yes, we have French to Italian. Lisa's doing French to Italian.
Okay. C'è. Okay.
But we don't have French to English.
Okay.
Si ascolta dopo? Cesare,
no,
in simultanea?
Dovrebbe cambiare canale, andare sul canale francese-italiano. Vada sul francese.
tu peux parler, Anne. Vas-y, voyons s'il y a la traduction à l'italien.
Ok. Je disais que les deux dernières assemblées et même les précédentes, ça va, là, va bene, ont montré qu'il y avait une énorme diversité de situations parmi les pays et que ça va du danger de la militance, le danger d'emprisonnement, presque le danger de mort, avec la difficulté d'accès à l'eau, à des situations qui sont meilleures de ce point de vue-là dans certains pays et qui ont des préoccupations d'un autre ordre qui sont surtout la cherté du loyer. Voilà, c'est vraiment un éventail très très large. Voilà ce qui m'a frappé.
Grazie Anna. Ci sono altri interventi?
Thank you, Anne. Do we have any other presentation? Who really participated in the assembly?
Oui, merci Cesare de me donner la parole. Moi, j'ai trouvé que la dynamique était par rapport au... J'ai d'abord trouvé ça très émouvant, que dans le cadre du 20e anniversaire du Forum social mondial, on réussisse à organiser cette assemblée. Je pense que c'était un événement important du Forum social mondial qu'on devrait valoriser dans le cadre de toutes les activités qui ont eu lieu pour le Forum social mondial, et en particulier sur cette construction des mouvements urbains, des mouvements d'habitants, des organisations qui se sont construites dans le cadre du Forum social mondial et bien au-delà. Ça, j'ai trouvé d'abord vraiment intéressant. Au niveau de la dynamique, je pense qu'on avait une bonne représentation géographique, avec bien sûr nos amis d'Amérique latine, d'Europe, évidemment, la participation d'autres organisations africaines, et peut-être un peu d'Asie, je ne me souviens plus exactement. Voilà, je pense qu'il y avait quand même une bonne représentation géographique, et nous avons réussi à construire cet agenda dans les résultats de cette Assemblée mondiale. Et je pense qu'aujourd'hui, la question, c'est comment cet agenda qui a été construit en commun, démocratiquement, collectivement, avec une forte participation des uns et des autres, guide finalement notre action au niveau européen. Et il me semble qu'à ce niveau-là, il y a des avancées à faire, en particulier sur ces questions des plans de relance qui se développent en Union européenne, mais qui va se développer à d'autres échelles du monde, et comment on arrive à faire remonter les sujets pour le logement, pour la ville, pour l'habitat, dans ces plans de relance. Je pense aussi un autre aspect, c'est la question de l'espace public, puisque le confinement, les restrictions des libertés dans les différents pays du monde a impacté la question des services, des espaces publics, et peut-être même des services publics. Et là, il y a vraiment quelque chose à faire, il me semble, sur réinvestir l'espace public avec les mouvements d'habitants. Voilà un petit peu quelques éléments d'évaluation de l'Assemblée.
Grazie Davide. Solamente qualche numero.
Just have few figures. In the 4 sessions, they registered in the sense that they participated over 1,000 from people from 70 countries from all over the world, all continents. So we really had great participations. So then we have reached thousands of visualization of the webinar. So the main networks of the right to housing intervened, participated in it.
so Fianza, the International Movement of Tenants, work for workers. So a huge result we were able to achieve. As concerned the agenda, we set some important points, in particular in our zero eviction day. And we will debate in a while. We decided for the mobilization of the 27th of March. So David was saying that we have to enhance all what we achieved. In these few days, we were able to draft the 4 versions of the assembly, of the drafts of the assembly, and now we are launching a new draft of the Solidarity Habitant Alliance of Inhabitants. So all are kindly invited to work on it. And this sharing approach is a very, very interesting one. Our other presentations on the World Assembly, otherwise we shift now, we go on the second part of our assembly. Now, swifting on the second part of our meeting, we will see that is more focus on the European proposals. So what we are seeing right now all over the world, and in particular in our continent, Europe, is that what we were able to achieve means, for example, the eviction moratorium is very important. We saw in these days in Italy, for example, the decree that is extending the expiring date to June risk to got stopped, and we were able to block it, so to get put a hold and got the moratorium till the end of June. For sure, in other countries like France, the expiring day will be end of April, then March, and in other countries, April. So the small tenants are moving forward because they are trying to see that the market, the housing market is getting down, and therefore they're trying to mobilize themselves so that they can raise once again the market. So there is a common need to face in each country, but also in Europe as a continent, to this eviction emergency, independently from the arrears or debts that tenants might have. The second aspect is the change of the policies. You remember maybe in the 18th of January meeting, we have our report, and we have been debating, we debated of the report that the European Union produced and was voted at the end of January, which produced a shift in the paradigm in Europe. And so means led to a resolution which is stating that the European policies must focus on the right to housing. And they are referring to a series of regulations in the single states in Europe. So the pillow for the social rights, and it includes the right to housing. So in this historic moment, it's we are talking not about righteousness, but for example, the Tribunal Code of the Right to Housing in Europe, we are talking of something else. We are talking of the Recovery Fund that will be labeled as the Next Generation Recovery Fund, and there are thousands of billions involved in it, because some of them are loans, other are grants. So the most important thing I would like to highlight is that this money are not allocated as most of the countries' government saying to relaunch the economies or the employment, but we are talking more about relaunching the economy through the environment. They are really referring to the social cohesion. I quote this, I said this because in few weeks, I think the right date is the 7th of May in Porto, so in Portugal, will be an assembly that will be in Portuguese that will face the European plan to implement the social pillar and the European pillar. And this goes together with the different recovery tiers that each country has to submit within 30 of April and not beyond. If your governments, they are saying that housing is not included, we can tell you that is not true. So we advise, and they have to do it. They have to do it because when the moratorium will expire, where all these people are going to end up. So try to sum up. Within the Solidarity Agenda for Europe, mobilization from now to in the next week should consider and focus on these pillars that I quoted. Of course, the extension of the eviction moratoria and against high rents, so that can be readjusted. We'll know that people do not manage to pay rents, and consider also the financial aspects. So if some of you, some comrades would like to highlight what we are doing in Italy, please go ahead. We do not have right now other news about, for example, from France or Spain. So the idea behind it is that within the next 6-month agenda, we will mobilize as much as we can, because we do know that on the 30th of April will be the first expiry, and then we'll follow the eviction moratorium. So 30 June in Italy, and then Portugal, and so on. So please try to have your say on these issues and what we could do in our mobilization strategy. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? So you were asking what we have been doing in Italy. First of all, we are very satisfied of the European resolution, which indicated the path, more than a path, a highway. It's opening up a highway. So I think we do have to have a more binded relations, because not only we have to take in consideration their right to housing, as I was saying 2 years ago in London, and I was not heard, we should have a more huge connection to the parliamentarian groups, link groups, because there they have some awarenesses that can be more simulated. In Italy, in a certain way, we exercise maximum pressing. Means that we were trying to leverage the press. We last October, then we had also virtual events. We are strict connection with all the parliamentarian groups here at the government. And thanks to these connections, we were able not to postpone the evictions, because on the last 30 June, there was the first expiration date. And we were managed to postpone them through our trade union leverage and trade union connection. So it's clear that it's not enough to have it's not enough to block eviction till June, because otherwise everything will end in that day. So we, as our institutions, we are on one side pressing for the eviction block, but at the same time we would like to use part of the recovery fund to be allocated on public housing, and so that we can intervene and retrofit all these public housing that the government owns to be reused and modernized. So we do hope that the new liberalism policies are not so implemented, because we are more for those energy policies in order to fund and support small and public and private companies, so that a part of these billions of euros can used to build new housing. We don't need only social housing. We also need the common wealth and the inhabitants' well-off possibilities, economic possibilities. So we do hope that we will follow this path. I hope I wasn't so quick. You were a bit quick, but we should try to speak slower. But no way. The interpreters manage very well. May I add something else, Cesare, if it's possible? I would like to add something else, Massimiliano. A small thing that concerns Italy that you do not is so small as it seems to be. Maybe it's a banal thing for you, but I do not think it's banal. Yes, I think that it's right to say that evictions were blocked till the 30th of June, but actually, and you do know, all of you, and better than me, what was blocked actually in Italy are the so-called execution. Means that the eviction in the Italian courts are going forward. What was blocked, what and with some aftermaths, economic aftermaths, that will be very serious in such a period of time. And this is because evictions are regularly notified, and courts and hearings are held normally. What is postponed actually is the execution. And I'm just talking about the arrears that were not paid. For all other evictions, there is no moratorium. So our situation in Italy is a bit more complex that here, as actually the two core moratorium that we should have applied. I'm saying this because in the Italian courts, since evictions are going forward due to not pay arrears, there are really very bad consequences for tenants, because all those tenants that cannot pay arrears and rent, they will face evictions, and then will follow a series of other financial consequences with legal expenses and so on. So some euro that might be of fixed amount, with when a notification is received, you'll see that you have to add other expenses like the legal ones. Therefore, I would like to, I wanted to be more precise. The situation is far more complicated of what is read and heard. So by saying, yes, there is a moratorium till the 3rd of June, is not really so exact, so precise, better say so precise. In the real world, in reality, as you said, de facto, there are much more problems as thought. I just wanted to be more precise. Yes, thank you very much for this for this detail. Can you hear me? Yes, the interpreters can hear you.
Io non sento più niente.
In the Italian English booth can hear you very well, yes.
Volevo fare un piccolo intervento.
I just would like to say something. I would like to talk on behalf of these of the citizens who were asking for asylum. I was able to achieve and get the provisional permit of stay. There are some people that get to be evicted and no longer will have a house. They run the risk also to lose this provisional stay permit. Therefore, means that we are going to have and add not regular citizens who do not have a regular permit of stay. So we're going to have a new category of citizens, the invisible ones.
Non si sente.
Est-ce que je pourrais intervenir aussi? Et je vois
oui.
pas.
Oui, oui. Je t'en prie. Sylvie, vas-y.
D'accord. Bien, on a parlé... Oui.
Attends un instant, parce que probablement il y a un problème d'interprète.
Ah bon?
Mike, it seems that there are no interpretation to Spanish and to English. Attends un instant, parce que probablement il y a un problème d'interprète.
Ah bon?
Mike.
Oui, yes.
To English and to Spanish.
English to Spanish.
No, from Italian, for example, the intervention just made, there was no interpretation to Spanish.
English to Spanish.
No, Italian to Spanish.
No, there is no Italian Spanish.
Ah, and to English?
There is Italian to English, yes.
But I can't add. Sorry.
Francesca is doing Italian English.
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, we have some gaps, but...
Yes. Okay. Next time. Sylvie, tu peux continuer. Excuse-moi. C'était Sylvie ou Anne en train de parler? Sylvie. Sylvie?
Oui.
Allô?
Voilà. Bon,
excuse-moi.
Bon. Mais je ne suis pas en vidéo.
Ah non?
Je ne suis pas en vidéo, c'est-à-dire que on me dit que l'hôte, comment dire, a débranché ma vidéo. Vous ne me voyez pas.
Non. Bon, vas-y. Non, tu peux réactiver ta vidéo. Hein?
Ok. Bien, oui, on a parlé là du plan européen de la présidence portugaise à l'heure actuelle, là, pour le premier semestre. Et je voudrais dire que, entre autres, il a été annoncé qu'une des priorités de ce plan serait la question des migrations. Bon, je n'ai pas encore vu que le thème avait été traité, disons, ou coordonné entre les pays européens, mais il faudrait suivre cela de près, je crois, parce que c'est une priorité, paraît-il, dans ce plan, enfin, au niveau du premier semestre. Alors, pour la France, je dois dire que les associations diverses là, d'aide aux migrants sont pas mal intervenues là, ces derniers temps dans le cadre du contexte donc, de la pandémie, etc. Et on a cherché à vraiment mettre l'accent sur le fait que les migrants étaient les plus touchés, disons, par les risques potentiels de la pandémie, parce que justement, ils n'avaient pas la possibilité de se confiner, n'ayant pas de logement, etc. Et il a été mentionné également particulièrement les conditions dans les centres de rétention des migrants. Et voilà, en indiquant qu'il n'y avait pas lieu de maintenir les migrants dans des centres de rétention dans la mesure où leur situation ne pouvait pas être réglée pendant le confinement, la période du Covid. Donc ça, ce serait un point à suivre, disons, du point de vue de la France notamment, c'est-à-dire comment continuer la pression pour que les migrants, justement, soient dans des conditions, justement, d'hébergement ou d'hébergement temporaire, disons, décentes. Voilà, et ceci est à mettre, je crois, dans les débats, etc., du plan européen annoncé par la présidence portugaise. Vous m'avez entendu?
Oui, merci Sylvie.
D'accord.
Oui. Justement, alors, la présidence portugaise, le 7 mai, il y aura, donc, excuse-moi, le 3 mars, c'est prévu qu'une réunion de la Commission européenne va discuter du plan d'action pour la mise en œuvre, du plan d'action pour les socles européennes.
Oui.
Attends, il faut que je parle en italien. Et
Ah ben
il
moi,
3
je ne
marzo.
comprends pas. Je
Oui,
comprends
oui,
pas
oui.
l'italien, il n'y a pas de traduction.
Non, il y a la
Ou alors, il faut
traduction.
que je me mette à la traduction en anglais.
Non, 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 il y a la traduction en français.
Je ne l'ai pas eu tout à l'heure. Ah bon?
Oui.
Bon.
On m'a dit de parler en italien.
D'accord.
Donc, il 3 marzo ci sarà una
On the
riunione.
3rd of March is going to have a European meeting where the Commissioner Schmidt, we will submit the action plan for the social pillar for social rights. So this is the first date. The next one, and in this date, this pillar should be approved, is the 7th of May in Portugal. Therefore, we have these two important issues. So, postponement of the evictions, which should cover also the ones that are now excluded, as it was said before, the payment, the decrease of rents. And then there is another initiative for a further mobilization on the 27th of March. Then I would like to ask Daria, Public Service International, which kind of undertaking the trade unions are thinking to implement. Do you have an initiative on a global level to re-municipalization, in particular here in Europe? Yes, yes, I'm here knocking on the table. Cannot because somebody is block my video. Now I can maybe. Yes. In which language I'm speaking? Italian? Yes.
Pour cette invitation. Je pense qu'on s'est vu une fois uniquement dans une assemblée mondiale, je pense l'année passée, mais de plus en plus, on essaie d'intensifier des relations et des contacts avec Cesare. Donc, l'Internationale des services publics, c'est la Fédération mondiale des syndicats des employés des services publics, y compris les personnes qui travaillent dans les services de logement social ou logement public, ou comme on dit en italien, case popolari. Donc, ce sont des services relativement petits par rapport à notre secteur, qui est assez élargi. Donc, nous avons 700 syndicats dans le monde entier, mais nous couvrons aussi la santé, les services sociaux, l'eau, l'assainissement et tout cela. Ça m'a fait beaucoup de plaisir d'entendre tout à l'heure le collègue de l'Unione Inquilini d'Italie dire que vous êtes à faveur de la reprise en main publique de tous les services. Mais justement, ça fait un moment que j'essaie donc moi je m'occupe du secteur des communautés territoriales, donc les gouvernements locaux, puisque dans la plupart du monde, le logement social et public, comme vous le savez parfaitement bien, relève des autorités publiques locales, des collectivités territoriales. Donc, ça fait un moment que j'essaie de soulever la question du logement social et public en tant que service public essentiel. Bien évidemment, dans notre fédération qui est très variée, qui a tous les services publics possibles, c'est souvent la santé, l'énergie et d'autres services essentiels qui sont plus visibles. Mais avec le Covid, bien évidemment, on a eu l'opportunité de montrer vraiment l'importance, de faire un peu du plaidoyer interne pour montrer le rôle impérativement important du logement, plus que jamais en tant que service public. Et c'est pourquoi j'ai partagé avec vous ce papier qui existe aussi en français, en espagnol, qui est sur l'importance cruciale des services de logement social, d'autant plus en temps de pandémie. Et donc, nous avons un agenda qui implique en ce moment plus que jamais, et c'est quelque chose qui est en train de se construire, s'est construit dans les dernières 10 années, un agenda donc de reprise amont du public des services essentiels, parce que on constate tous et toutes, je pense, bien évidemment aussi en Europe, que la privatisation de ces services essentiels, que ce soit l'eau, l'énergie, mais aussi la santé, etc., ça ne marche pas, ça rend les personnes plus pauvres, ça crée plus d'inégalités à niveau interne dans les pays, mais aussi externe entre les pays. Donc, c'est pourquoi nous travaillons avec pas mal d'alliés et c'est pourquoi je viens désormais aussi régulièrement que possible dans vos réunions et j'essaie d'amener Cesare et j'espère de plus en plus certains de vous, certains d'entre vous qui sont pour cette alliance dans nos événements. Alors, Cesare, sur la question que tu soulèves, là, à niveau européen, il y avait ma collègue européenne de la région Europe que, comme tu as vu, j'ai invitée, mais elle n'a pas réagi. Donc, c'est quelque chose que nous allons discuter avec elle, les trois, moi, toi et elle, dès qu'on prend rendez-vous. Par contre, ce que j'aimerais, c'est que, et là, je m'arrête ensuite, j'aurais besoin de pouvoir, en partant par la région Europe, identifier où vous avez déjà peut-être des relations où il y a des alliances possibles entre les syndicats des services publics de votre pays. Je sais qu'au Royaume-Uni, par exemple, il y a beaucoup de collaboration entre les tenants associations, hein, les associations de locataires, et les syndicats des services publics comme le syndicat Unison ou Unite. En Italie, avec CGIL et Funzione Pubblica ou d'autres syndicats de la CIS, j'aurais vraiment besoin comme point de départ pour qu'on puisse articuler et mettre en articulation cette alliance et la faire croître. J'aurais besoin d'une sorte de mapping de votre part qu'ensuite on va faire matcher avec notre mapping parce que nous sommes en train de le faire. Et donc, à partir de là, je vous encourage vraiment de voir si il y a du dialogue possible avec les syndicats des services publics parce que je sais, ça je le sais, ils sont tous en Europe en train d'essayer d'avoir une influence précisément sur les paquets de relance de l'Union européenne. Mais il se peut que la question du logement soit vue dans certains pays, y compris peut-être l'Italie, comme quelque chose qui relève d'une autre association ou pas obligatoirement du syndicat. Donc, si vous avez l'opportunité de vous mettre en contact, n'hésitez pas tout d'abord à m'écrire. Je vous dirige aussi à l'EPSU, mais comme vous êtes là directement, cherchez votre partenaire syndical parce que je sais que eux, de leur côté, et vous du vôtre, tout le monde est en train de dire au gouvernement qui recevront les enveloppes, investissez dans les services publics de proximité. Et donc, à mon avis, il y a vraiment une bonne opportunité de joindre la voie pour que les gouvernements reconnaissent le logement social et public comme un bien public essentiel et commun. C'est tout ce que je voudrais dire. J'ai mis plein de ressources dans la chat parce qu'il y a des villes, comme vous le savez très bien, comme Vienne, Berlin, qui ont commencé à reprendre en main publique. Maintenant, il y a un problème de criticité de financement des gouvernements locaux, ce qui, malheureusement, à un moment où on a plus que jamais besoin de financer des services locaux de proximité forts, y compris des logements sociaux, eh ben, à ce moment-là, s'il n'y a pas des financements durables qui vont suivre, s'il n'y a pas au-delà du paquet une durabilité du financement, que ce ne soit pas privé mais public, donc que ça passe soit par une mise en puissance des collectivités territoriales, aussi en termes de financement, soit par un soutien conséquent par les gouvernements centraux, eh ben, notre crainte, c'est qu'il y aura soit un retour à l'austérité, soit des nouvelles coupes budgétaires là où on a plus besoin, c'est-à-dire dans les territoires. Donc, il y a du travail à faire ensemble et avec cela, je m'arrête. Donc, voilà, c'était pour vous présenter un peu le concept, qui nous sommes et pourquoi il y a une alliance à construire, même si le besoin est déjà très urgent et on est toujours en retard dans notre type de travail, n'est-ce pas? Merci beaucoup.
Grazie Daria. È una porta
Thank
aperta.
you, Daria. Yes, we relaunch your suggestions. So in the next presentations, we would like to invite you to say something. What about the relations with the public sector? I saw also that Thomas, please say something. How is the situation there where you're staying?
The problem is my English is not so very good. So
my English is.
Yes, it's okay. In Germany, the situation is a little bit different because we are good located for economy. We are in the middle, and everything comes to us without much problem, I would say. So we have another kind of situation. So the problem here is that the housing, the apartments in metropolitan areas are getting too much expensive, and yeah, things like that. Also, housing is getting more expensive from day to day, you can say. And in crisis like that, it's really the people have to spend a lot of money just for housing, and that's not a good thing. And we much I think much politicians here still just try to get the best out of the situation for us, or we still have to fight that we are going to have an social Europe, and I don't think the next generation EU will be automatically next step to that, because when you really read what's in the texts, I have read it a little bit. I don't know if it's really the original text, but there's the Commission still has the right to block money if they think it's not a good plan what you get, and things like that. Also, it's still it's still that you really have to politically fight for it, that it's going to be social again. And the most important thing I would say is that it's not equalizing enough in Europe, or balancing in Europe cannot be done only by investments, by investments. So you really need an active balancing, in my opinion. So you really have to go on with politically demanding it, and yes, I don't think it's an easy way from here on. That's there's still you really have to keep on to demand it and to yes, I'm in a political party and I'm trying to look that as long as you have enough, you can you have to share it. Done.
Grazie Thomas. Io vorrei sottolineare.
Thank you, Thomas. I would like to highlight that Berlin, it might turn out to be a great city with whom we can ally with. There is a referendum that is planned, I think, for September, that will ask for getting properties that are of a certain value. Maybe there are some other friends from Berlin that might participate. We have Daniela Mosca from, and then somebody else, it's TNL as well, and also the International Union of Tenants. And also David Molivet maybe would like to say something on the action of 7th of March. Hello, I'm Daniela Mosca from Varese in Italy. I would like to comment on the Daria presentation, as she was referring to public trade unions, to say that here in Italy, I working on the public PUB, so-called PUB, that is a trade union organization, a basic trade union organization, which has a strict connection with the tenants organization. So the initiatives of tenants, Unione Inquilini initiatives are also implemented where we are present. And in particular, as public employment exactly in this phase where we change our government and we have the Draghi government, we are in particular very concerned of the political situation, about the political situation, because Draghi represents the finance Europe, the banks Europe, and it's not a case that he was called for this task. So in order to manage the recovery fund of investment funds and so on. So we have to be very attentive to this aspect. And at the same time, we are concentrating on the fiscal reform, because we are highlighting the fiscal unjust in Italy, especially as can you hear me? I cannot see and okay. Yes. For example, the rents that are managed by which have a free market price in a certain way, and they are enjoying a fiscal reduction, so they benefit from taxes, and this is very much different from a renter, for example, or who is a state employee. So this difference highlights that in Italy, the property market is managed and is actually paid by lower social classes. As public employees, we do support as much as we can all battles of Unione Inquilini on the right of housing and all the relevant initiatives that are promoted in Italy. And it's very interesting also what Daria said about the necessity of having a coordination at European level, especially of those workers which are on the public service, especially those who are working on the local agencies locally, which manage the needs and necessities of immediate necessities required and of social housing. And another important aspect is the upheaval that is happening on the working situation. We saw, for example, some offices that are empty, means that many workers are working in smart working. And therefore, this aspect that the smart working will turn out to be a normal way of working, both for private and public workers, will in a certain way leave empty many buildings run by public authorities. Therefore, we should rethink of reusing these buildings that belong to the state or local agency or regional or provincial institutions. And therefore, you should be rethink all these aspects and trying to also coordinate public employees that are moving, that are working in particular sectors that should be connected. Therefore, this is a very important aspect. Through this meeting, maybe we could go deeper and build up a better knowing us better among each other. I end it here. Thank you, Daniela. It's very important what Daniela said, because we have to develop more relations with trade unions, so that it's very important, this kind of mapping that you gave us. Maybe Anne, she likes to say something, or maybe David, so that he can present us, introduce us the 27 March mobilization.
Vidéo.
No, no, oui, please.
Ah, démarrer ma vidéo. Ah si, c'est bon.
Voilà, parfait.
Donc, alors, cette année, la mobilisation, comme c'est le week-end, aura lieu le 27 et 28 mars. Donc, il y aura sur les 2 jours en fonction des pays, si les pays s'organisent plutôt le 27 ou le 28. Normalement, la communication de l'événement doit être lancée 1 mois avant, donc elle va arriver la semaine prochaine. Évidemment, elle sera marquée sur une mobilisation d'au moins 27 ou 30 pays, coordonnée par la coalition européenne pour le droit au logement et à la ville. Elle sera marquée par les impacts de la crise sanitaire au niveau des mots d'ordre qui du coup a accentué une situation déjà intolérable et qui a montré avec le confinement le fait que le logement est un besoin fondamental. Il y a beaucoup de revendications sur les luttes pour le prolongement des moratoires contre les expulsions pour le prolonger durant toute l'année 2021 et évidemment au-delà. Quand même, beaucoup de pays, ces revendications ont un impact au niveau de l'opinion publique, puisque dans cette période de crise sanitaire, les expulsions sont encore plus intolérables. Et donc, les organisations d'habitants veulent maintenir la pression pour l'arrêt total des expulsions. Dans les pays, alors on ne sait pas exactement si les pays vont organiser des événements en ligne ou des événements, des manifestations. À Grenoble, il y aura probablement des manifestations dans la rue directement. En fonction des conditions sanitaires, chaque pays s'organisera. Donc, dès qu'on a le matériel de communication, évidemment, on le fera passer. Normalement, ça devrait être lancé la semaine prochaine. Je crois que c'est les groupes allemands qui coordonnent ça. Et donc, ça doit arriver un mois avant l'événement. Donc, ce sera probablement dans cette semaine, au maximum ce week-end. Donc, voilà. En fonction de votre pays, vous pouvez vous retourner vers les organisations membres de la coalition européenne pour le droit au logement et à la ville. Évidemment, il y a beaucoup de partenariats avec les différentes plateformes, les plateformes pour le droit à la ville et d'autres. Donc, et c'est important que l'ensemble du réseau de l'Alliance internationale des habitants et de la rencontre là, de cette coordination européenne puisse se joindre à cette initiative pour faire la pression. Et il me semble que peut-être que la particularité de notre espace vis-à-vis des autres organisations, c'est d'insister sur la prise en compte du logement dans les plans de relance. Et je pense qu'il y a un travail très fort a été fait au sein de l'Assemblée mondiale sur ce sujet-là. Et je pense qu'on devrait essayer d'envoyer ces messages, peut-être avec une communication un peu commune, un visuel sur l'importance de cette question. Voilà, si vous avez des questions, je peux aussi répondre sur le chat ou envoyer les informations dès que je les aurai.
Merci David, j'en profite que tu es là et je relance l'importance d'avoir une rencontre. Si on peut faire une rencontre avec la coordination, la coalition européenne pour l'action pour le droit au logement dans ces prochains jours, d'accord? Si tu peux te faire interprète.
Oui, okay. je vais essayer d'organiser ça.
Parfait, parfait, merci. Et je vois qu'il y a Régie Essono, KDTM France, qui a levé sa main. Régie, tu peux intervenir.
Ah, merci. Merci.
Voilà. Alors, Régie, tu dois réactiver ta sono. Voilà.
Ok, là, vous m'entendez?
Oui, si tu peux aussi réactiver la vidéo.
Oui. Alors, donc, merci. Donc, je disais que je voulais rebondir par rapport à cette dernière intervention, parce que je ne sais pas si César s'en souvient, mais on avait eu un échange lors de l'avant-dernière réunion sur l'appel qui était prévu, que l'on devait rédiger. Je ne sais pas si c'est toujours d'actualité. Donc, comme j'avais dit à l'époque à Césarée, ce n'est pas tellement moi qui vais suivre cet aspect-là. C'est une autre collègue de notre association, donc, qui est le CADTM. C'est plutôt elle qui est spécialisée avec une autre personne sur cette question. Et donc, moi, je lui en ai parlé et elle est un peu surprise par ma proposition parce qu'il se trouve que elle est déjà en contact avec elle est déjà en fait active au sein de la coordination européenne pour le droit au logement. Donc, du coup, en fait, elle ne pouvait pas être là ce soir parce qu'elle a une autre réunion, mais elle souhaite en fait savoir quel est l'autre lien exactement avec la coordination européenne et pourquoi est-ce qu'on n'est pas déjà actif avec eux. Donc, je n'ai pas su quoi lui répondre. Donc, je pense que César et David peuvent peut-être m'aider parce que je lui ai un peu parlé de nos réunions. Elle me dit, attends, mais il y a plusieurs réunions des organisations dont tu me parles et qui font partie de l'Assemblée européenne. font également partie de la coordination européenne. Donc, je ne comprends pas en fait comment ça fonctionne. Est-ce que tu peux demander donc à vous comment ça se passe avec la coordination européenne et pourquoi est-ce qu'on ne travaille pas déjà avec eux? Donc, c'est le sens de sa question.
Parfait. Oui, je peux te répondre. Ce sont deux réseaux différents, c'est-à-dire la coalition d'action européenne, c'est au niveau européen. L'Alliance internationale, c'est au niveau global. C'est comment ça marche les réseaux. Nous avons envoyé une invitation, mais probablement il y a des temps et les réseaux marchent comme ça. Bien ou mal, c'est la richesse il y a des potentialità, ci sono alcuni problemi, ma ci sono anche delle potenzialità. Dunque, è importante, c'est très important que là, David se fasse interprète auprès de la coalition pour faire une rencontre, d'accord? Dans ces prochains jours.
D'accord. Elle m'a dit qu'il y a un appel qui sera prêt pour le 1er mars, normalement. Peut-être que David peut nous... Oui, c'est ça, c'est ce qu'elle m'a dit.
Oui, c'est ça. Normalement, il doit arriver un mois avant. Donc, le 27. Donc, je crois que d'ici le week-end, il va avoir encore quelques petits, peut-être, échanges. Vous savez, c'est des processus qui sont longs parce qu'il y a beaucoup d'organisations, il y a des problèmes de langue, etc. Donc, il peut... comme nous l'a dit Daria tout à l'heure, on a l'impression d'être toujours un petit peu en retard, mais l'important, c'est qu'on fasse ce travail de coordination, de toujours relier ces initiatives et essayer de construire des agendas communs. Alors, je pense que si l'Alliance internationale des habitants relaye et soutienne et qu'on apporte de la force et des propositions également, parce qu'un travail important a été fait. Lors de cette journée d'action, je pense que ça va bénéficier vraiment à tout le monde, que ce soit la coalition européenne ou que ce soit... Donc peut-être qu'on a quelque chose à imaginer de spécifique, je ne sais pas, peut-être une rencontre en ligne au courant de ce week-end, peut-être spécifiquement sur comment impacter les plans de relance au niveau du logement. Je ne sais pas, peut-être qu'il y a quelque chose comme ça, ou avoir quelques messages clés qu'on partage. Donc, il va y avoir évidemment l'appel, qui est une bonne base, mais je pense que le réseau a des propositions spécifiques parce qu'ils l'ont travaillé. Alors, on peut les partager avec les autres.
D'accord. Donc, proposons faire avant ce week-end, faire une réunion. La mobilisation du 27, nous avons bien sûr des propositions à faire, donc on peut partager, on va si on peut sortir avec un appel commun, par exemple, ça pourrait être intéressant, pourquoi pas. D'accord. Est-ce que ci sono altri interventi su questo?
Do we have somebody else who likes to say something? Any other presentation? I see that Anna is taking her notes. Good. The International Union of Tenants, who is this historic organization, a tenants organization, is doing a huge lobbying work upon European Parliament, and we have been debated in the last few meetings of mobilizing all together on the issues that we have been raised today. And then I would like to profit from the fact that Anne is here, that we could talk about with AIL from Lisbon and others, so that we can plan a meeting with UE2, together with, of course, trade unions which are present in Brussels. So all together we could see what kind of mobilization could we implement. We will have next meetings, some few other meetings with other organizations, with EUMT, and the other huge network is ANSA, which is very much committed with homelessness. Together with them, we have been debated. We debated these two issues: the European resolution and how might mobilize in the next relaunching activities. And a couple of years ago, we but we did not manage to build up a network with other networks that were coordinated by our Austrian friends. At that time, they were managed to have an impact on the European level. Now, in this phase in which it's important to have achieved goals, it's important when we keep on being on touch, we keep on exchanging emails, and with them, the Austrian friends, we might go deeper, and so that all together we can mobilize all together. Do we have other presentation? Please raise your hands or take the floor. We have a couple of hours. We have been our meeting lasted a couple of hours. We had a couple of technical problems, but everything is great thanks to our interpreters. Now we would like to have our wrap up. Laura, maybe you can say something. Please go ahead. No, hello, Cesare. I was sending the link of the series of association you were mentioning. I heard what you said. There is another issue, the ones that you said, but maybe it's more a question that they would like to address. Of course, it's clear. You should like to present yourself. Our Laura Colino, I'm an urban specialist. I'm working on 2 European programs that are focusing on urban regeneration. And with another organization, and for another organization, I work on urban agenda on housing and poverty. And have been manage another event which FAENSA participate into it with other researchers and activists. Therefore, I'm keep on being focused on this issue. Sorry, we have some background noise, but I'm sharing my my house with somebody else. There are some priorities, and of course we should exercise leverage on the recovery plan funds and follow what are the debates in different countries, especially those who have some representatives in Brussels, because right now there is not a clear outlook what are and which are the several different indications that can be given to different countries. So what is happening actually in different decisional roundtables. At the same time, I would like to highlight the contradictions that were raised before, and in particular the Italian ones, as was said before. It's true, when we have some moratoria, actually the moratoria do not cover all the most deepest problematic problems. So this means that we should have a better communication with the European Union. So true, some governments said that our conscience is clear, but actually it's not so, because from the territory, the opinions are rather different. So there are problems. Another point is that it was said that markets were stricken. Yes, but actually that's not completely true. It's partly true, because they are fluctuating, the markets, and there is a special attention on the special assets. Means those properties which might be once again have a favorable price and becoming more alluring for investors. Maybe we should take into account and we should keep under our eyes, we should monitor the very interests of huge investors that way might profit of the crisis. That is not only a health crisis, as you know, but involves so many other crises involving other industries. Therefore, there are some industries that have not the recovery fund and eviction, zero evictions that are facing problems, the problems, important problems right now. Well, we don't have to forget other aspects like the funding of housing that right now is addressed, but should also be further developed. That's what I heard. Thank you, Anna. Laura, maybe was not so clear. The market went down. There are the vouchers that are on your horizons, always there, but now they're coming back and they are profiting from this bad situation. And I'm following on locally, there are many people that are paying the mortgage and the banks are taking over their assets. But now, of course, we could open a huge chapter on which we could dwell upon. If there aren't other presentation, I would like to sum up all the different proposals that emerge from our debate. First of all, the most important is that all together we do agree to keep on using this common space. Many are impressed from the level which we are moving, how we could have the follow-up so that we can be more incisive, have a major waves. We should have a common goal, an agenda, common agenda, mutual agenda, share agenda, and the alliances, and on them we should develop a strategy so that a major impact can be achieved. On a national level, we assist on these going evictions, and the moratoria cover some of them, other are not covered. There are some other states that keep on proposing evictions, but the reality is that people cannot pay the rent. They cannot keep up with such a situation. So this is the first aspect. Second, the fight to the extent, achieving the extension of a cover of all aspects like support for health. We should combat, we should fight so that the money from the recovery fund should be allocated also for popular housing. So in the last meeting that we have, so in social housing, sorry, with our Austrian friends, is very much committed on social housing, so that from them we could use their tools, and so we can say the money is there, but has to be used and allocated from a structural change of policies. The deadline of the 30th of April, we should keep it in mind. It's it's very important. We should grasp it. We should really insist on mobilizing and facing this deadline. And we should address this paradigm shift. So money should be redistributed. Money are there, so it should be distributed. We should recope thousands of housing that are empty, they are abandoned. So, for example, it was said that with the smart working, some offices are empty, so maybe they can be reconverted. So that they can be used. So these two aspects, we mentioned them. And then we also suggest how to mobilize the next few months and weeks. And then there is the Zero Eviction Day in next October, but we will talk about later. And there are also proposals on the training of popular organization. How could we address, face evictions? Therefore, we should take into account international regulations. And please, we do have to take into account all these elements. But right now, the priority is to see how to get to the deadline of the 27th of March, including which all together should participate. In this weekend, a common strategy should be decided and disseminated, and see if there is availability to participate. The International Union of Tenants, together with them, and Fianza, we should work on the European level to exercise lobbying. Therefore, the deadline on the 27th, 28th of March, and we should take into account also the 7th May deadline. What is going to happen in the 7th May? In that day, it's going to be the European meeting that will, all different governments will participate, so that the European pillar of social rights should be implemented. Therefore, these are important dates. We should all get informed about this date. We should mobilize. And as concerning the meeting in Porto, I would like to talk with our friends, other friends from Portugal, that unfortunately today they could not participate in our meeting. Today is the 22nd of February. Please disseminate all the info that we have been presented here. In Italy, we have other organizations that are not present today, as International Alliance of Inhabitants. Our next meeting will be in April. And before the world meeting, we should use this lag of time to have more specific proposals. And we should also reiterate that we should think about the Porto meeting so that we can have a major impact. At the same time, we should have a better capacity as concern every single state. And if some of you has further contacts with universities, we know there is a really great scope of action. Unfortunately, the number of evictions follow the pandemic crisis. We will disseminate the link of some studies carried out in the United States and Great Britain, United Kingdom, and Spain, so that everybody can be stimulated, so that everybody can do something, implement something against evictions and the moratoria of the evictions. Is there somebody else who would like to add something else? Please. Could you reactivate all your, unmute yourself and unmute yourself, please? Daria, I would like to thank you all. And maybe if you can send me, or to everybody as well, the docs which you mentioned, and in particular the US studies, means the impact of the pandemic, the impact of eviction on the pandemic. Between May and July, there were 10,000 deaths and more evictions because no moratoria was taking place. So there is a strict relation between the pandemic and the missed moratorium. In Italy, we were managed to have the extension of the eviction moratorium, even if they tried to cancel them. Because we said, would you like to feel responsible of a death toll, a huge death toll of people? And many people prefer not to do so. And because we could be charged of a criminal act, the act against health. So we should use a clear strategy, not halfway through strategies. Please unmute yourself, all of you, please, so that everybody can greet each other. Maybe somebody else likes to say something. Please go ahead. Photo. So we said this the week of 27, 28 of March, European mobilization. In April, mobilization. Then we are going to have another European meeting before, but we should also address the fact of how we manage, because we said all these ideas, all these suggestions, because here we are now full of ideas, but as activists, Anne is there. Thank you, Anne is taking notes. Thank you very much. That's a precious skill, precious task. But it's important to have our responsibilities and have a solid group that is very well coordinated. We set up a WhatsApp group. If somebody of you have some reserves, please raise your hands. If there are new proposals, please go ahead. Please exchange infos, not on everything, but for example, how to manage a European meeting in order to decide, for example, today, the date of today, we have a Google polls of, new ideas and ideas. So keep on thinking of all these issues in the next few days. So we greet us all. Who's taking the pictures of all of us? Who is good at it?
I've done it.
Mike, grazie per l'aiuto e grazie agli interpreti che hanno sforato il tempo, purtroppo.
Thank you all. Thank you to the interpreters. We never get within time, so always over it. Thank you all.
Ciao Anna, aspetto il report. Ciao Laura, ciao Mike, ciao Lisa, ciao
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you all. Ciao, grazie.
Andrea, non so chi sei perché...
Grazie
Andrea
Lisa,
c'è
grazie
scritto.
Mike, grazie Cesare.
Thomas.
Thank you all.
Ciao
Thank you.
Thomas.
Ciao, grazie.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao, ciao.